Resuming debate, the honourable member for Central Okanagan, Similkameen Nicola.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and as always, it's an honour to rise on behalf of the good people of Central Okanagan, Similkameen Nicola, and to speak on a topic that I know that there are a range of views, and in a democracy we can disagree, but I would say everyone who's spoken tonight obviously believes that Canadians, particularly those living in poverty, I spoke earlier today in a statement about how being part of being Canadian is to try and help one another. So I think many of the sentiments is good. It's just how best to achieve that. And so while I certainly will take issue with elements that are presented here tonight, I do want to acknowledge that the member has submitted an idea for debate that she feels very strongly on and deserves credit for having brought the issue to the forefront. Madam Speaker, Bill C-223 enacted to develop a national framework for a guaranteed livable basic income. First of all, I think it's important to say what this particular piece of legislation would do. It would not actually enact a guaranteed livable basic income. It is more of a discussion, a framework to have further discussions so that at some point there could be some sort of report that's done by the minister after discussing such a framework with and doing subsequent work to it. Now, let's just start with this first. There's lots of discussion. Milton Friedman, famous American economist, some would argue one of the greatest economists of all times, talked about a reverse income tax that would be able to pay people for along the same types of things. So this is not something that's just found in left-wing politics. Some people have mentioned former Senator Siegel, who has a long career in Canada. So this is an area that has advocates both on the left of the political spectrum as well as the right. What I would say, Madam Speaker, more than anything else today is two things. First of all, I'm speaking personally. I follow what political philosopher Karl Popper used to discuss, the use of something called reverse utilitarianism. So you may recall, Madam Speaker, that utilitarianism is usually public policy that is meant to do the most good for the most people and to increase the general happiness for the most people. Reverse utilitarianism is actually to reduce the suffering of those that suffer the most. So anytime we have this question about universal programs, we have to say who would be receiving said programs. And universal programs are not cheap, Madam Speaker. That means that every single person, regardless of their condition, would have at their ability, just by choosing to opt into this framework to receive money from the federal government, would have that choice. But we don't talk about the people, Madam Speaker, persons with disabilities, those that have the toughest situation. We're actually, by giving money to those that are able, we actually take away resources that could go towards helping those that have the most severe issues so that they can live a fulfilling life within society. And I think that's something we always best keep in mind. In fact, when the BC NDP government established a panel that did a report in 2020, this is one of their key concerns, Madam Speaker, is that by simply giving out money, it doesn't necessarily mean that those who need it the most get the exact support they need. This has been brought up, the cost of it has been brought up. Again, speaking to University of British Columbia economist Kevin Milligan, he's argued that a universal basic income, whatever name you use, would be enormously expensive. And that's something actually the panel did say in its report. And again, it did talk about the need to have some of these discussions. Now, I would say, Madam Speaker, this: if we were, at post-World War II parliamentarians discussing, okay, Germany and other countries are putting in a welfare state, should we consider doing likewise? Perhaps having a discussion with a young and with a tremendous amount of economic growth, a young population with economic growth would certainly be able to support such a policy. And we would have a legitimate choice between apples and oranges, the apples of the welfare state or the orange here of a universal basic income. But Madam Speaker, we are not in a position where we have, the our economic growth is not flowing. We have something called secular stagnation, and the indebtedness of not just of G7 and G20 countries, but the aging populations, Madam Speaker. We already see that we have many provinces where businesses are complaining about the lack of workers. Now, there is we've seen unemployment tick up, but Madam Speaker, at a time where we are saying that we need to have more people to build the homes, why would we be inducing healthy individuals to take a benefit from the government and just take them out of the workforce completely? So, Madam Speaker, I understand the sentiment behind the thinking here that the member is choosing, but I don't think this is the right policy environment for this type of policy to go forward. Again, our aging demographics, we want to encourage more people to work. Why, Madam Speaker? Well, because our old age security system, something that I think most people, if you talk to most Canadians, they feel it's a pillar that's important to support. It is, again, a transfer from existing taxpayers today, those that are paying taxes, send it to Ottawa in good faith, and then those transfers go out to what's becoming a larger and larger population of seniors. So, Madam Speaker, suddenly switching the gears and having where we're actually pushing people to consider not working, to me, makes it very difficult to support this kind of transition. Now, bear in mind, Madam Speaker, that we also need to have the discussion that it is ultimately provinces as well that have a big role to play, as under our Constitution, they're the ones that are usually responsible for the social welfare of their population. And so, Madam Speaker, suddenly having a new federal program coming down, how it interacts with each individual province and their system of transfers, their systems of grants, their system of programs and services, I don't think will work. Madam Speaker, if we look to C-22 that was passed that was passed by this chamber, it talks about creating a Canada disability benefit. I would hope that all of us can acknowledge the truth. That particular program, we have no idea of how much someone can get, except that now we know that the government won't give more than, $2,000 a year, Madam Speaker, or $200 a month. This is the problem we have, Madam Speaker, is we have so many different programs at the federal and provincial level, and they already are so extensively costly. I just don't think, Madam Speaker, that this is a good use of time and energy. So, Madam Speaker, again, I appreciate the sentiment. I do believe that we need to be thinking about how we can help out our fellow Canadian. Again, this is a country where we look after our own, but again, given my worries about the economic arguments, Madam Speaker, our aging demographics, the lack of clarity of what provincial programs are doing, the fact that provinces like BC have looked at this and have actually said, no, we're not proceeding with our own system, similar to what the member here entails. And then lastly, Madam Speaker, again, that reverse utilitarianism. We should not be considering more universal benefits, in my opinion, without first asking ourselves, what does this do to those that are suffering the most? I do believe that targeted programs such as our guaranteed income supplement should be looked at, Madam Speaker, and we should always be trying to ask ourselves, how can we help those that are in the most extreme of need, that are that do not have the revenues to be able to look after themselves, or those people that unfortunately, due to some circumstance, are with a disability that does not allow them to engage in Canadian society like the rest of us. So, Madam Speaker, I will be voting against this. I do appreciate that there's a number of people that speak very, very strongly in this. But, Madam Speaker, if it comes down to it, I only have two choices in this, to support or not support. And I reluctantly will just say I am not going to be in support of, Madam Speaker, of a whole comprehensive change to our support programs for the reasons that I've given. Thank you very much for the time tonight, Madam Speaker, and Thank you for people listening.